Hey everyone, it's Sleepy Reader, aka Damien. This is my comic book countdown, my comic book thoughts presented in the form of a countdown with descending order of enjoyment. So I only had 7 comics this week, that I picked up this past Wednesday, and I read them all last night, Saturday night. It's Sunday afternoon now. So it'll be 7 through 1, number 7 being the one I got the least pleasure out of reading, and number 1 being the one I got the most pleasure out of reading, and as I often remind you guys, totally subjective, not based on my critical judgment of what I should like or what you should like, just what I felt as I read these. And if there's any theme to this week, it was, well, with one exception, covers I did not like. There used to be this great segment that Oddfellow Thoughts did where he would just sort of analyze, in his opinion, a whole bunch of covers. Maybe I should try that sometime. In fact, I think I have tried it in the past because I've tried everything in all the years I've been doing this. So in at number 7, with definitely a bad cover in my opinion, was Eradic. And I just did not get into this comic. I did not pay attention to the fact of whether or not this has been marketed as a kid's comic, but clearly it is a kid's superhero comic told in kind of a almost just a slight touch of Mad Magazine spoof parody of school kind of style. And it should have been funny for me, but it wasn't. And all the jokes just kind of did not hit me right. This might be a hilarious comic for someone else. I really liked Carrie Andrews' artwork and approach in Renato Jones and the 1% that he did for Image. So I just put this on my pull list, sort of sight unseen, and now I think I'm going to have to take it out. This cover just seems like a horrible mess of things you can do with Photoshop. With these different layers of things going on. Each one has been manipulated, I think, in Photoshop in a different way, and it just makes for a mess with nowhere good for your eye to go. I mean, I count at least 4 layers. The layer of these energy bands swirling around, the layer of this distorted figure that you can't quite make out what is going on with him. He's got a foot up there, a foot down there, a hand up here, a hand there. It's supposed to be like one of those crazy Spider-Man images, but, a la Todd McFarlane or something, I guess, but it just doesn't work. And then you've got this layer of just these round lights, and then the photograph of a city that's been heavily photoshopped behind them. And everything is kind of blurry, or I don't know what the Photoshop term is for when you turn up the brightness of something. Total mess. There's other parts that are very photoshopped in here, but Carrie Andrews is a very talented sort of, what's the right way of putting it? Caricaturist of a sort. It definitely made me think of Mad Magazine or something like that, or even like Little Annie Fanny maybe. But it just did not click with me a whole lot. So I'm going to have to take it off the pull list. Also on my pull list, but when I saw this cover, I thought, boy, this is really making me think of what I don't like about Firepower. I don't like really where Chris Samnee, once one of my favorite artists' artwork is going. And Robert Kirkman's script on this is not doing a whole lot for me either. Maybe because I did not read I still have it in a stack of trades I need to read, the prologue that came as a full trade for Firepower. I think maybe that was a mistake because you feel like you pick up issue 1 and you can read issue 1 through this is issue 6. You feel like you should be able to be involved and compelled by the comic, but I am not. I also just don't like the way Chris Samnee draws action in here anymore. I don't at all. I don't know. It feels to me like in a sort of kung fu martial arts kind of comic, the way you draw the fight scenes is really important, and I just don't get into them here. And the twists and turns, such as they are, don't have a lot of impact on me. So this is on the edge of whether I'm going to drop it off my pull list or give it another few issues. I was so excited to get a monthly comic drawn by Chris Samney again when this first came out. So that was number 6. In at number 5 is Heavy, which is a comic that's both kind of cool. Again, not a very inspiring cover for me. Better than those other two, actually, but that's not saying much. I'm not even sure who this is on the cover. Is this the girl that both the main characters had involvement with? She's shown as a redhead there. Is that the same girl? This is it's a weird, kind of cool concept about people in the afterlife whose job it is to go and kill people throughout the multiverse. Which, if they kill enough of the right people in the right way, they're going to go to heaven. It makes no sense. And the characters sometimes realize that, but then keep doing what they're doing, I guess. It just feels like there's bits and pieces that the writer forgot to put in to make it all make a lot of sense. But I think I'm continuing for at least another issue. I also am not a huge fan of this artwork. Kind of artwork that I'm kind of now thinking of as kind of standard indie comics artwork of this current period, current time. It's a Vault comic. Vault comics often seem hit or miss, or very close to the line of working but not quite working for me, and sometimes they start to work, like Engine Word is starting to work for me. So this is real close. I don't know. Strange Adventures, number 7. And kind of the same story of I don't get where the writer's going anymore, and I feel like there's a little something missing. But horrible. That's a horrible cover, especially drawn by these great pros who do the same people who do the incredible artwork on the inside. A lot of what's shown on this cover isn't even in this issue. Like, there's no Mr. Terrific in this issue. This is just a hodgepodge of images thrown on top of each other, to my eye, with no serious thought about composition or storytelling or visual appeal. It's like they accidentally published someone's sketch that shouldn't be used. So a large portion of this is some form of torture, or is it? And when did it happen? And who is it that is torturing Adam Strange? It's not clear to me. It's not clear. There's a whole bunch of cool psychedelic mind torture moments that we see. But putting it all together is a little beyond me. But I'm definitely in for the ride. I've been enjoying Strange Adventures overall. This is issue 7 of 12. And maybe when I go back and read it all together, it will make a little more sense. This feels in a way very related to Tom King's Mr. Miracle series, which I enjoyed quite a bit, except for issue 12, where the whole thing fell apart for me. But reading this, as I was reading it, I was thinking, Tom King has his brilliant sides and his annoying sides, and I'd really like it if he goes off to Hollywood for a few years, writes some scripts, has all of that, gets that out of his system or whatever, makes a lot of money, and then comes back to comics after he's rested his comic book brain for a while and see what he can do. Because there's a certain sense of this, it feels like a repetition in a way. It's good, or it seems like it's going to be good, but it's maybe time for him to rest, let his creative juices multiply. So what was that? That was 7, 6, 5, 4. This was my number 4 book. And so my last 3 are the ones I really enjoyed a lot. Still with the bad covers. It's a better cover than some of those others, but this cover really doesn't work for me with this negative space in front, kind of ugly colors, and the character being all cut up. And again, I'm not sure what character that is from the inside of the comic. But the art inside the comic is great. The coloring is great. And the story is a lot of fun, and it kind of wraps up, but is kind of opens up to the next story chapter for all our characters. So this does, in a lot of ways, capture a lot of what I liked about the original Sandman comics. But what it doesn't have, Neil Gaiman always closed the chapter or the story within 6 issues. He gave you a complete story for the characters and the ideas, and then he moved on to another story that may or may not have direct connections to the previous story, but was connected to the whole overall arc of Sandman. Whereas this looks like it's going to be one long, rambling story. We'll see, but I'm definitely on board. And partially that is just the way comics are made now. People do uber long stories or long, baggy things that go on for 20, 30, 40, 50 issues. This probably won't go on that long, but I'm guessing it. This was issue 5, so I'm guessing a number of more arcs anyway. But G. Willow Wilson is really well suited for telling this kind of Sandman dreaming story with a bunch of characters, angels, nightmares, human beings, figments of people's dreams. So anyway, I really enjoyed it. Okay, here is the one good cover of my comics this week, and it's not that great of a cover, but it works, and it has a composition, a central focus. You can tell what's going on. The characters are there. This man and the cat kind of are your center, and you move out, and the coloring kind of brings your focus in. So yeah, there's the back cover. I've now, this is issue 4 of Inkblot. I now understand that every issue is a bit of its own story and a bit of a peeling back of the onion of this world and what's going on with this cat. And so this story, we find out at the end of the issue, is a story that took place in the past. And so now this cat that was created in what would be the present of the book, created out of ink blots from books, can travel through time. And so I think what we're seeing is our sort of historian storyteller characters in this past story that involves her cat, who's traveled into the past. And so it's very imaginative, very cool things with the Sphinx and whatnot. So these people are traveling from dimension to dimension, and here they are encountering the creature that the Sphinx is based on. And apparently they've had other encounters with her and her kind, and perhaps are behind the demise of her species. I'm not quite sure about that. But it was all very interesting, fun. I do hope, as I stick with Inkblot and that it manages to go long enough, that all of this will make a little more sense as you look back on it. But it is fun to see these two creators, Emma Kubert, the granddaughter of the famous Joe Kubert, and this fellow named Rusty Glad, collaborate and create all kinds of new things and fun things. So yeah, I'm really glad that I picked up Inkblot and that I've kept up with it. And then Spy Island is done, or at least its first arc. It's 4 issues, which is now the standard thing for Dark Horse Comics, unfortunately. I would have liked another issue or 2 here, but they kind of hint there's could be more stories to come, so I suppose that depends on sales. This is Chelsea Kane headed production with Metternich and McCall and Rosenberg and Caramanga. And this is definitely one of the most creative, high energy creative, funny, outside of the box comics this year, and maybe one of my all-time favorite comics for 2020. I'll have to go back and think about that of all the comics I've read in 2020, but I've enjoyed this more with each issue, and I've really come to sort of grok or be in sync with Chelsea Kane's very unusual sense of humor and the kind of collaging together of this story. I just love it. It's been awesome. I mean, what's going on the cover? They're showing a leaf. I don't think that's a marijuana leaf. The leaf is dripping with blood. Yeah, but you get maps, you get advertisements. It's packed full of stuff going on in this story, and I don't know what to compare it to. Is it very original, or just gathering together influences of different things that I don't know that much about? The closest I can come to, but this is a very, just covers kind of some aspects of the sense of humor, is it's like a Wes Anderson movie, but with spies and krakens and mime fathers, and it goes beyond that. And every page, even the back ad, is actually part of the story. It's just a wonderful comic. I highly recommend it. It may take you a while to get on Chelsea Cain's wavelength. She's come into comics from the outside, someone who's written memoir, done journalism, and done these feminist serial killer novels, and I think maybe some other kinds of mystery novels too. I'm not quite sure. And I think this is the third main series she's done in comics, I believe. I think she did Mockingbird for Marvel, which was okay. I mean, I enjoyed it. I guess I read the first trade of it and enjoyed it, but didn't feel in a rush to go get the next trade. And then I kind of half liked her comic Maneaters over at Image, but she's really come together here. And so that old adage of, you bring in new creators who aren't sort of part of the base fandom of comics, and they bring something new to comics. To me, often that's not the case, and it doesn't work out. And I do think Chelsea Cain loves comic books anyway, and pop culture, and all kinds of pulpy things. And she just really does, her unique approach to comics has really come to fruition here in Spy Island. And so this really made my week and my month. Just one of the best comics I've read in a long time. But not for everybody, for me. I'm sure there's people who hate it or say, what's the big deal? But I thought it was kind of genius. So there you go. If only Spy Island had a better cover. I mean, come on. Let's... Oh, look, even a cover like this. This is the mime showing us what happened previously. So, and I got to wonder, who's this model? Is that a friend of Chelsea Cain? Does she live here in Portland? Probably not. She's very tan. Chelsea Cain does live here in Portland, probably somewhere in my neighborhood, because I know that her kids went to the same elementary school as my daughter. But I haven't run into her in years. I used to run into her just like when we were both working, writing for City Search. I ran into her there. I ran into her at a few parties, long before she even published any novels. Okay, so that's all for now. Talk to y'all later.